It's going to sound like cheesy, but I've always wanted to make my own anime in some way, shape, or form. Yes, okay, I was that weeb, yes.
This was just a small snippet from an OTV podcast published on July 1st, 2022. Giguk, in response to the topic of things on your bucket list, highlights a dream of being able to make his own anime one day. And honestly, I feel like that's the dream of a lot of anime fans too. I mean, we've all consumed enough of the content, right? Can't help but fantasize what it'd look like if we got to manifest our stories into this beautiful media form too. The designs, the voices, the music, the sakuga. Yep, we're just daydreaming all that. You know that meme of a guy listening to music and then there's just someone wondering, what's he thinking about? Tell me you were one of those types who was just visualizing the most epic fight scene imaginable to go along with that bop you were listening to. But alas, all of these creative and colorful thoughts were still just mental fantasies, a fiction that would only ever remain in our heads and never realized for the world to see. And perhaps Giguk too believed this back then as well. But to think that around 3 years and 19 days later, that hopeful little aspiration of his to create his own anime would actually be announced to the world as reality. Bâan, the boundary of adulthood. A story of two people in search of a new life who leave their birthplaces, traveling to a whole different world trying to find a place where they truly belong. It's an 18-minute short film created by Studio Daisy, and thus has all the bells and whistles you'd expect of a Japanese-produced anime. But ultimately, the creative mind behind all of it is Giguk. Bâan is his story, and his story is the one being realized through anime. Thus, Bâan is indeed his dream come true. I mean, I think it's one thing to have your work be realized into animation, right? But as an anime fan, it's the dream to have it be realized by the creative minds who have created some of your favorite shows. Basically, I'm saying that if I wanted to make an anime, it's got to be Japanese produced. Come on. But yes, on July 20th, a historic day was had for the anime community. An OG veteran of the AniTuber space, Giguk, announced the release of his anime, a content creator creating anime. I always thought it was possible, but in this day and age, I thought it might have been Mr. Beast that gets onto it first, considering his whole shtick for virality. I'm challenging 10 anime studios to fully adapt my Squid Game video for $500,000. But the twist is, they have to do it within this circle on a stranded island, and if they don't complete it on time, we've gone down the entire family and... But no, thankfully we live in a timeline where it's Giguk who's the first to do it. And honestly, in my opinion, there's no content creator more deserving than him. Now assuming, Giguk, you are watching this video, mate, I gotta ask, just how meta is this all feeling? This must be such an odd experience, right? Watching a video essay on an anime that you made? Cause you be the guy making the video essays on other animes. And now, there's a video essay on your anime. Crazy, innit? But I suppose when you're living the dream, life's already crazy enough as is. Because, well, you're living the dream. I wish it were a commonplace thing, but nope. For many, it's a dream to live the dream. And for you, Giguk, Bâan is just that dream. Now, I've rambled a butt ton about the context and significance of Bâan, but why don't we actually explore its conception, its origin story? Because surely, an opportunity like this doesn't just drop from the sky out of a crane's mouth, right? So then, how did this all come to be? Some years ago, thanks to the surplus of Kadokawa's financial situation, the executives over there were like, bet, let's use some of this money to invest into some experimental animation projects. After all, nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? There could be a big market opportunity out there that's just not yet been tapped into, and Kadokawa's got the money to go digging. So in hearing this, the mum of Trash Taste, Maylene, proposes to the boys of some potential ideas that could direct Kadokawa's investments to them, be it in a potential anime opening for their podcast, a Trash Taste manga, receiving animation for specific segments, all were promptly rejected. Although ultimately, the opportunity for an animation project to be greenlit still stands, and that got Giguk's mind buzzing. An opportunity. So in getting the thumbs up from Kadokawa to pitch them an idea, Giguk is given 2 to 3 months to think of a story. Which, great, okay, that's good time. Too bad he's got to do this whilst on the Trash Taste American tour. Still, his dream is now suddenly within his grasp, so he'll do whatever it takes. And so, Giguk writes up his isekai idea. Yes, isekai. And not because that's his brand, which is a happy coincidence, but you see, with how much isekai the anime industry pumps out, it's indeed a safe choice, which means less risk for Kadokawa and henceforth a better chance of Giguk's idea getting greenlit. Still, Giguk does style his isekai idea to be a coming home isekai, i.e. a story of when characters return from their fantasy adventures in another world. He thought to do this in order to give his idea a competitive edge. And so, after 2 weeks of locking in, whereby he also had to learn how to write a screenplay, he submits his work, hoping for the best. But to no avail. Yeah, Kadokawa unfortunately ghosted him. But, post-reflection, Giguk totally understands why, considering he believes this piece of work he wrote was dog water. But hey, the experience wasn't a total loss. He got experience in actually writing up an anime, and it only served to reaffirm his passions for the deed. Now fast forward some time, following an interview with the author of Vinland Saga, producers over at Twin Engine, another well-known anime studio, who happened to be there with the mangaka, also happened to listen in on Giguk's anime aspirations. And they too were like, bet, let's make some dreams come true. So, when asking if Giguk has an available idea or screenplay, yes, of course. Whilst not an outright lie, it was more of a delayed truth, since he did have a screenplay, but he wants to refine the hell out of it. So the producers give Giguk a 3-month deadline to submit his idea, which, fantastic. Sounds like good timing, again. Too bad he's got to do this whilst on the Trash Taste Europe tour. Nevertheless, history repeats itself, and Giguk grinds. The story maintains the same premise of a going-home isekai, but this time, he reads way more professional screenplays to enhance his current writing. And so, fast forward some time and Giguk submits his piece, and he is again left waiting. Waiting. Mind you, these were some very anxious times, which makes sense considering his dream was on the line for a second time. But thankfully, unlike the first time, his project gets the okay. Giguk is making an anime. Man, what that must have felt like when he heard that for the first time. I swear it must be his third favorite feeling in the world, second being marrying his wife, and first being the birth of his child once life gets there. But when you see him reflecting on all of this, you can not only admire the growth, but dedication too. I mean, from someone who's never written a screenplay before, to now being able to understand it enough that he can equate it to that of an engineering roadmap. Damn, that's real-time growth. Although in his words, apparently a screenplay is just a piece of writing for people who can't write, so And then there's the little time he would spend recreationally to ensure his idea was finished. Dude highlights how during the Christmas period, he only left his room once, and that was on Christmas Day. Every bit of extra time he had, any extra seconds, he invested it into his craft. This heightening in skills, this commitment to writing, all of it was for his dream. This is not work. This is not a lucrative opportunity. This is the dream. And what's even better? Well, in taking his first steps into this arduous journey of anime creation, Giguk mentions that in his years of writing and planning stuff, this has been the most fun he's had in his career. And that's close to a decade of time. God damn. So that all covers Bâan's origin story, but now comes the necessary labors of actually constructing Bâan. So where do we start? I don't know, but much like the writing process, Giguk sure seemed to have a lot of fun during this stage too. For starters, he was with the team developing the key designs of his characters, which Giguk inputted his identity and passions into. Did you know the main girl, Rin, is literally called Rin because of his standing for Torsaka Rin? But her personality is also born from the wide-eyed new country vibes of Giguk's wife and his own personal insecurities. And then you got the world building of Euthania, which Giguk took the chance to shout out his cultural identity. We've never really seen the Southeast Asian mythos in anime before, and honestly, that's just one of the dubs that came from this idea, because it also got the production team real excited. And then from this excitement comes more passion, which we can clearly see because goddamn, look at that naga, hey yo! And then you got the simple prospect that Giguk got to work on his dream project with his mates. Kevin Penkin on music, yeah mate. C-Doc VA on ADR. Did you know that this was C-Doc VA's first time doing voice directing? Wasn't even given much prep time either, but hey, you make diamonds out of pressure. And did you know that also during auditions, Giguk did it blind? I.e., he did not want to know who the person was when they recorded. He just tuned in on the voice and picked. No matter the clout, if they don't sound right, it's not right. Then you got the anime man on merching, which I want to expand upon a little because when you watch the interaction between Giguk and him as they glaze the naga, the anime man was immediately getting ideas on what he could do with the merch. And like, ain't that awesome? Working with your mates to help make your dreams come true, and then it also gets their creative juices going, making them excited, and thus just making this snowball of excitement and energy all because of this one project? And then finally, you got Giguk being able to work with the staff of Studio Daisy personally. And with him saying how he's flexible to budget and time, a line apparently hardly ever uttered in anime productions, it really goes to show just how dedicated Giguk is to ensuring his dream is properly realized. Still, as much as I highlight the positives of the production, much like the writing process, there were still some challenges that came with it all. For starters, conflicts in artistic vision. Initially, Giguk was hoping for Rin to adorn a more normal hair color, which presumably the entire production team disagreed with, due to her being a main character and thus needing a more bright feature to help her stand out. And ultimately, Rin would be given this brighter hair, which Giguk is actually now extremely appreciative of. And if you want my opinion, I too agree with the staff on the hair color choice. Furthermore, she's from a fantasy world, so law speaking, it just makes sense. Next up, battling with economies of animation. The more detailed a character, the heavier the workload on animators. This is one of the reasons why you can see Rin's wings being magic, not real. An explicit request from the production side. That being said, it's not like all the detailed stuff was cast aside. For example, the naga, which the animators animators reluctantly agreed to work on. Looks detailed as hell, but hey, Studio Daisy's mastery with CG and 2D blending thankfully got the beast animated beautifully. And then you got the initial scrap designs of Rin's clothes, which, whilst immediately landing that Thai aesthetic, the patterns would indeed be a great challenge to animate. Although such clothing was seen on other characters, so at least it wasn't completely scrapped. And finally, narrative pacings against expectations. Now this unique challenge simply came about because of the nature of Bâan being a single one-shot. Most isekai stories are 12 episodes, and thus they do come with an expected progression. For example, episode 1's all about focusing on the world, but then what the hell can Giguk do if he has to complete the isekai checklist all in one episode? The solution? Faith in his audience, i.e. he's confident enough in his fan base that they can pick up on the show don't tell. It's more about ensuring the vibes are captured, and not necessarily completely capturing the lore. After all, there's only so much you can do in 18 minutes. Still, these were only just some of the production problems I've listed, because I'm sure there were far, far more. For example, did you know that Giguk faced a fair bit of pushback during production? I mean, at times, there would be multiple meetings, which would go on for like 4 hours. Nevertheless, in spite of all of these labors, I'm certain this entire experience still came from a place of everlasting love. Cause I mean, it's the dream. Bâan is Giguk's dream made true. I swear, I wouldn't be surprised if Giguk personally sat at every stage of the production himself. I guess we'll be able to find out all about that when his production documentary on Bâan actually releases, so I'm keen for that. But for now, since we've covered conception and construction, it's time for appreciation. For 2 years, Giguk has been cooking this, so let's actually appreciate the dream come true and watch Bâan. Basically, what I'm going to do here is quite frankly brain dump all the stuff that caught my attention during my first watch, before going into the more coherent ramblings. It's basically a glimpse into my brain in real time. So, what did I see? Well, as the start is accompanied with the sound of the Naga, I was like, hey yo, that's really beautiful, but also oddly refreshing to see. Such a grand beast producing such a serene sound. And trust me, I'ma be glazing the Naga a whole lot more. And then we're introduced to the existence of euthania, which I remember thinking, isn't it valid but a horrible coincidence to call euthania euthanasia? Euthanasia, by the way, is the medical term for assisted. Oh my god! Because technically, euthania is inspired from Southeast Asia, so put the two together and... yeah, I'm clearly a deranged person. Anyhow, we move. Next, we're finally introduced to our main characters, Rin and Daichi, who clearly share some parallels, namely seen when their parents show worries over their departure, as well as their actual departure. And yet, where they differ is that Daichi expresses more anxieties with his new journey, whilst Rin is full of excitement over it. I recall Giga commenting on how Rin's Japanese voice actor was specifically selected due to her innate sound possessing a quality that's both youthful yet mature. And now watching it, I can totally hear it too. Nice work, Mikawa Haruna-san. Next, our characters finally entered their new world. And man, when it was accompanied with that Kevin Penkin magic, woo, goosebumps. I swear, eventually the lad will be getting a moniker which denotes his specific sound. Kinda like the Sawano drop. Now admittedly, I didn't immediately catch on to this, but for context, Rin is entering our Earth, whilst Daichi is entering into Euthania. So with this in mind, let's continue watching Rin in her new home of Earth. But just like in any new place ever, you need money to live. So here we are at the pains of job hunting, which I suspect Giga pulled his experiences off into that here. I particularly liked how Rin at one point just scanned for keywords in order to confirm whether she got through or not, which is so realistic to what everyone does, because as long as you don't see the email starting with, "Thank you for your application," I think you're good. Meanwhile with Daichi, yeah, he's on that Euro camp life in Euthania, touching grass. Rin, on the other hand, is touching the Karens of humanity. Giguk, why did you put Rin's first job on Earth into a customer call center? Of all the soul-sucking jobs you had to put the poor girl through. But then again, I guess it makes sense as to why the job hired her. Honestly, that job would hire anyone based on the staff turnover rates. And I'm also glad that Giguk depicted the realistic harshness of that profession too, rather than going for the angelic, oh everything's fine portrayal. And speaking of realistic days, yeah, much like anyone's first day, Rin's first day just kinda sucked. Because honestly, your first time anywhere new isn't gonna be all rainbows and sunshines, especially when you're exposed to the worst of humanity like in a call center. But switching back to Daichi, yeah, dude's only concern at the moment is making sure he doesn't eat a plant that paralyzes him for the next 48 hours. That being said, Daichi does carry his own hardships, namely concerning his future. So honestly, the trip to Euthania appeared to serve as a gap year for him. Perhaps that's why the two characters had such differing experiences when going to their new places. Daichi's journey would hopefully inform him of how to handle his future, whilst Rin's journey was all planned to serve the future she wanted. Speaking of Rin, yeah, being the new girl at work also has its troubles, namely with the isolation. But then again, she's the little new girl of our whole world too, so... But my god, it's here where I was really appreciating the Naga again. No wonder the team were so excited with it, because it's not like your typical fantasy dragons. It looks, moves, and feels so different, which is indeed a very refreshing spectacle. And much like the Naga's steady progression through the skies, slowly but surely, both Daichi and Rin become more accustomed to their new environments. Sometimes all it takes is time for things to get better. Still, I swear this chick who's been meeting with Rin and Daichi, are you the same person or something? But then how? Anyway, as Rin participates with friends in the Matsuri, she overhears a particular sound which mentally throws her back into a memory, and I'm sure we can all relate to that. All of us. Do you want to know where I go whenever I hear this sound? In this memory, we see the denizens of Euthania currently performing a sort of ritual. And honestly, this here is one of the big highlights for me, Southeast Asian representation. Much like the Naga, it's just so refreshing because really, I've hardly ever seen it before in the anime medium. So when I look at the Euthanians' clothes, their instruments, I can't help but be engaged even more because god damn, it's just so different. But as beautiful as this ritual was, unfortunately there was a dangerous entity that attempts to stop it. And here we see the Euthanian people in battle. Yep, we get an action sequence. Giguk's first toes into the battle genre. Unfortunately, stopping this calamity does result in the passing of what I presume are Rin's parents. And in her escaping, she meets Daichi? Wait, what? Yeah, I was like, what? I thought the two were traveling in parallel. But no, maybe that wasn't the case. Nevertheless, yes, I was indeed quite surprised in learning that Daichi is connected to Rin's childhood. And it's here that Daichi finds his home, his purpose. But Rin here, she feels she is a burden to him. Now don't worry, I do connect the dots eventually, but I remember thinking at the time, oh, maybe this is one of those instances whereby, I don't know, Euthanian people aged quicker than humans, thus explaining the age difference. But anyway, as we cut back to Rin meeting with her aunt, I remember thinking, the experience of having a relative in the new place you're staying at, that's such a common circumstance, I swear. But then during their conversations, it's here where we learn of how Rin plans to stop being a burden to Daichi by moving to Earth and staying there forever so she doesn't tie down Daichi to Euthania essentially. By the way, you notice the wings changing color? Yeah, these magical feathers not only enable Rin's people to fly, but they can also convey emotion. Cool, huh? And then, here's the big reveal. When Rin receives her video message from Daichi, we see this Daichi is actually quite mature and old. It's the same guy we saw at the start. He's Rin's adoptive father, Daichi. Gosh, I really should have picked up on that considering when we saw dude at the start, he's clearly not Euthanian. So nice work with that twist, Giga. I actually didn't see that. Indeed, Daichi's travels were from the past. And then he finds Rin, stays in Euthania to look after her, and then Rin travels to Earth with the hopes of alleviating Daichi's care duties. Also, that character with Daichi and Rin, it's indeed the same aunt, but from different time periods. And then, we essentially reach the movie's ending, with a heartfelt message of Daichi telling Rin that whilst he appreciates Rin trying to go out and live on her own, it's okay for her to come back home. Which, yeah, I can see such a sentiment would definitely hit deep for some people who have made the journey to live alone. There's an insurmountable level of comfort to be had when you know that you can always return to where you feel most comfortable and protected. And then, yeah, the ending hits, and the OST, yep, that's some goosebumps. Woo, Kevin Penkin, you are a freak, making my skin crawl like that. And then for the extra cherry on top, the movie gets a sweet dinner reunion with Daichi and Rin, whereby the two bond over their favorite Euthanian cuisine. There's missing home, but there's also missing the flavor of home, a concept I suspect Giguk wanted to portray considering his life upbringing in Thailand to then moving to London. Thus, my experiences with Bâan. Indeed, a very sweet, a very simple, yet human and heartfelt experience. And indeed, the movie is full of Giguk's own experiences. Now, just in the event that you didn't get Bâan, let's spell out the entire story's timeline. Initially, Daichi was at a loss in his boundary at adulthood. He's at the stage of job hunting, and people suspect he might take over his family's clinic, but he doesn't really feel neither, thus traveling to Euthania with the intent of finding his purpose, as you do on a gap year. And that purpose was Rin, a young girl who had just lost her family. I mean, when Daichi's about to travel to Euthania, it's actually hinted that things are not so safe right there. Nevertheless, in finding Rin, he resolves to stay in Euthania to take care of her. But with Daichi being someone not of Euthania, perhaps over time Rin felt that she was being a burden to him, since Daichi can no longer return home. A feeling I'm sure many of us can relate to. By staying in the care of our parents, we are shackling them to their duty of care towards us. Thus, Rin chooses to travel away hoping that she can relieve Daichi's care over her, or as she puts it, his burden. But of course, in a new land with no one, it's tough. But eventually, things get better until, to some degree, she's able to adapt fine to her new life on Earth. Still, Daichi affirms that it's great that she's wanting to live independently, but reminds Rin that she'll always be welcome back home in Euthania. Because you see, this care of Daichi's, which Rin assumes is a burden, is not the case. Because parents too find purpose in taking care of their children. There's not really a right or wrong to either. You can't dismiss Rin's feelings, nor can you dismiss Daichi's sentiments. But really, I think what's ultimately most important is that the two sides are born from a place of love. and that's just beautiful, just like Bâan. But there's something else I wanted to highlight. It's that, why is it that when watching this anime, I felt a bit more personally invested than others? Simple. It's the parasocial buff. Okay, jokes aside, I'm actually being serious here. Because for some of us who have been watching Gigguk for some years, watching this anime is a repeated reminder of how far he has come. From seasonal anime reviews, to anime averages, to singular anime dive-ins, to this. So I can't help but be in constant awe as I watch Bâan, knowing that, man, Gigguk really has come so far, hasn't he? I mean, with other animes or mangas you've consumed, how many of their authors are you acquainted with like that? Maybe zero, right? Unless you've been keenly following their work. But Bâan? Yeah, that movie hits different when you're a fan of the creator. Bâan is indeed beautiful. Bâan is indeed very human. Especially so, considering the number of times I was easily able to draw parallels to people's own life experiences. But I suppose if I want to be fully transparent with myself on everything that is Bâan, especially on the humanity aspect, I would like to, unfortunately, confess that amongst all of my admiration and adoration, there is a singular black spot that I cannot deny. After all, humanity is not all light. There's some ugly sides too. It's a common story, but when some achieve their dreams, others can't help but feel envy. Unfortunately, on that July 20th, when Gigguk first announced the release of Bâan, amidst all of my heartfelt congratulations and elation, I'll admit, there was a crippling stain of envy there too. And I'm being literal when I say crippling, because I remember just becoming real silent all of a sudden. It was a long minute or two of just silently reflecting over my life. Someone out there is really living what I could honestly say is also a dream of mine. And what the hell am I doing with my life? In my mid-20s, playing anime games, no significant other. Ugh, it was just thoughts like those which plagued my heart as I was watching the visuals of Bâan's trailer for the first time. Indeed, I was jealous, and very much so. But don't worry, that was a while ago. And envy, like every other emotion, is all irrational, and very temporary too. Especially once I actually took into account two things with Bâan, which completely washed the envy out of me like a firefighter jet stream. And these two things were sacrifice and worth. Because to achieve the dream that Gigguk did, my god, these two words resounded. First off, sacrifice. Let me reiterate that Bâan is almost completely self-funded. Gigguk's words, by the way, not mine. And yes, he's absolutely making a loss with this project. It's a bad business decision on nearly all fronts. And thus, the only way it could be produced is if Gigguk took on nearly all of the financial burden, ensuring the studio and company remains safe from monetary harm. You know how Bâan has all those benefits with it being free to stream on YouTube and no copyright if people reacted to it? Yeah, those benefits didn't come from nothing. They came out of Gigguk's bank account. Furthermore, Gigguk refused sponsorships, such as product placements, as well as other monetary channels, to ensure the integrity of Bâan was kept. Like, imagine if you saw Daichi playing Raid Shadow Legends or something, or he's drinking out of his GamerSupps cup and wearing Vessies. Ugh! And additionally, yes, there's more. Remember how I mentioned that Gigguk was more than ready to be flexible with the production's budget and schedule if it meant a more perfect product? Yep, Mans was ready to put in the financial sacrifice to accommodate for these changes too, because the dream had to be done right, and it had to be done well. Gigguk literally went above and beyond for Bâan. The absolute financial annihilation Gigguk took to ensure Bâan came to fruition is mind-boggling. This is why Bâan could only be 18 minutes long, mind you. Did you know that it was only meant to be 10 minutes long? But Gigguk wanted to double it, and thus, he invested the work. Lots of work. All of the sponsorship work he's ever done, he invested that work, all into producing Bâan. For example, that Hoyo Explains video? Yeah, that was for Bâan, and I'm sure there was some good bank in there too. Thus, the sacrifices Gigguk made for Bâan. Now I ask you, envious Tomotoki of past, as well as others who shared my envious sentiments, could you be willing to do all of that? Willing to go unbelievably into the red for this creative dream? Okay, I mean, yes, when it comes to creative visions, we all don't do it for the money, but for the love. But with how much Bâan took to make, for a lot of you, I'm betting that resolve will be called into question. Nevertheless, it's so clear that there were definitely sacrifices made. Big sacrifices. But now comes my second point, which dispelled my envies with Bâan. Worthiness. Because hell absolutely yes, if there's anyone that deserves to get a chance at making their own anime, it's Gigguk, bar none. He is, in my opinion, the most deserving and the most worthy in the content creator space. If I were given the chance as of right now with who I am, it'd feel all kinds of wrong. Like sucking on a rusty stale coin kind of wrong. Because I've contributed jack nutter to this community. But Gigguk, he's been making anime content before YouTube's golden days. He is a pioneer in popularizing it. He's an OG, he's a vet, and I'm certain many hundreds of thousands of people attribute their fondness for anime from him. To make an anime was not an opportunity that came out of luck. nor was it handed to him on a silver platter out of nowhere. No, this was an opportunity gifted to him after years and years of grind and passion for the anime medium. So yes, I believe Giga is absolutely worthy of having this chance to fulfill his dream. And when I consider this, along with the insurmountable self-sacrifices he made for his dream success, my envy can suck it. Honestly, it was actually through the same envy that I came to better appreciate the significance of all of this. So thus, I literally have zero envy right now. It's all praise and admiration for Giguk's dream. And now, based on Bâan's success, I really think the skies are the limits. Call me optimistic, but as I see it, Giguk's got a strong foot in the door. It's one thing to make an anime, but it's another to make a good anime. To even get your foot in the door is already a wildly large accomplishment, but he's got that golden shoe on with Bâan. So that's why I'm hoping, if Giguk gets another opportunity to create an anime, producers will be able to trust in his talent, invest more so that he doesn't need to do all the financial legwork, and from it, be able to create an even greater project. Perhaps next time he'll be able to create a 3-episode work, and then 6 episodes, and then a full-length 12 episodes, and by God, if he's making 24 episodes, then at that point, he's an industry veteran. But all of this is still just crazy aspirations and dreams, and they'll only happen if he actually wants it to happen. Because who knows, maybe he's content with Bâan. Well, let's say, Giguk, that you wish to continue to make bigger things, greater things. Sure, it may be yet another dream, but as life has shown you, it's attainable. Today, Bâan is your dream come to fruition. But tomorrow, well, there may be another, and then another after that, and then another after that. But ultimately, as I come to this video's conclusion, I think there's one thing I'd like to ponder on. Bâan is indeed the anime of dreams. And honestly, I think that if you were able to live a life where you could achieve your dreams, that in itself is successful. Giguk, to me, you have been successful. I mean, sure, Bâan is also going to make your accountants froth at the mouth because of all the losses, but success isn't solely monetary. Success to you may not even have anything to do with it. Because what your work lacks in financial gain, it makes up for in legacy. Because officially, Bâan is an anime of your creation, Giguk. If you go to my anime list, you will find your anime there. If you go to a pirated anime site, you'll probably find your anime there too. Outside your next of kin, Bâan is now another indicator of your existence. It is your legacy. But outside being your legacy, Bâan is also a potential source of inspiration for many. It could be the work that inspires those to do something. Maybe people will want to go out and explore the world. Maybe people will come to appreciate their family connections even deeper. Maybe people will want to lock in and make stories. Bâan might be the first ripple that starts a snowball effect of other creative ripples, ultimately leading to the founding of something fantastic. And I think that's really awesome to have. Bâan, the boundary of adulthood. It's not just an anime. It's an everlasting dream come true. Well, I've been yapping for a hot minute around Bâan, but that's just how I do things. I just happen to be the type of guy that yaps. And with Bâan, that anime just be making me yap a lot more. But hey, I'm also curious about your thoughts and opinions, viewers. So let me know your feelings about Bâan in the comments below. Follow my socials if you want to keep up with your boy. And like and subscribe if you want more from your boy. Much love, and take care. Although, before I do go, to add to the meta of this whole situation, at the moment there is indeed one of many video essays on Bâan out. But I do wonder, who will it be that abridges Bâan? Indeed many will try, or if no one steps up,
Fine. I'll do it myself.